you don't want to miss one moment of your life. Like we don't even know how long we're going to be here, right?
Wow.
So every moment matters. And when you're stuck feeling bad,
Mhm.
then you lose time. You lose this moment.
Yeah.
You lose precious time with a family member or being outside or just enjoying your dinner or anything,
Mhm.
right? Because you're just so stuck. This I find to be life-changing for me.
Welcome to the Empowered Woman Podcast, the #1 show on visibility strategies for women entrepreneurs. If you want to get empowered to be seen, stand out on social media, stages, TV, and more to make an impact with your voice and business, you're in the right place. I'm so glad that you're here. My name is Marcia Spurk, and I'm your host, professional singer and visibility strategist. Welcome again, and let's dive into today's episode.
Hi, Debbie. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
Yes, I'm super excited to learn more about how you infuse soul in everything that you do and how that has been such an important part of your journey. But let's, first things first, tell us more about who you are and what you do.
Okay, so I was born in New York, live now in sunny Florida. I've been here for about 16 years,
Wow.
and I am a psychotherapist. Um, and I've been working with people for about 14 years or a little bit more than that. And in general, I see people one-on-one. I also have an online course, and I also do retreats. My practice is basically holistic, and I include the mind, body, and the soul in my practice.
That's wonderful. How did you get into this? How did you get into counseling and therapy?
Well, funny thing, in New York, I was actually on Wall Street first.
Ooh.
And yes, and I loved it actually. I loved little suits and going into, work. I don't know, I just liked it.
Mhm.
And it started just because my first job out of high school was in a brokerage firm
Ooh.
because my parents knew someone and I just called them. And so that got me into finance and I loved numbers and it was just a lot of fun. But then at one point I was like, this is not me. And actually we had a reunion and some of my friends were like, why are you in Wall Street? Why aren't you helping people? And it's funny because I thought of helping people, but for some reason I couldn't like bite the bullet of going to school. I just wasn't the right timing. And only years later, for myself, I sort of had a soul searching journey, traveled, um, and found this unique place in Holland that I went to that did experiential psychotherapy,
Mm.
where I did a lot of primal work, a lot of work on myself. And when I got back, that's when I moved to Florida and decided that I'm going to help people. And so I became a foster mom. And from there, I went to school for social work, worked under someone else's private practice, opened my own private practice. And here we are now expanding that into a book that I've written, retreats that I run, an online course, and a method that I teach that includes the soul um, into life.
Oh, wow. It's so interesting how our life's journeys takes us to all these places that we couldn't have seen. And but there's always that little hint, right? Well, when I was young, people would tell me this. And eventually, through the years, you end up going down that road. And it never looks like how we thought it would look like.
Absolutely.
It's fascinating. Tell us more about your method and what all that entails. Who are the types of people that you work with? I'm super curious.
Okay. So I would say it's more mainstream wellness. So regular people like you and me who are feeling stuck,
Mhm.
depressed, anxious. I don't work with very severe mental
Okay.
health issues. So it's really just regular people, like I do also couples counseling, who are struggling. They just can't find happiness. They can't find themselves. They feel stuck. They feel like something's off and they just can't get back to themselves. And that's who I work with mainly.
Okay. And then what does that method entail? How do you guide them through this process of feeling stuck and then finding some clarity and rediscovering their well-being?
So the best way to explain it to you is how it happened for me.
Mm,
Um, I was going through a breakup and a financial crisis,
mm,
and I was struggling. I would wake up sad, worried, and I would do everything I knew because I've been a therapist for so long. This happened about 7 years ago. So I was a therapist for what, 7, 8 years, and I worked on myself since I was a kid. So I was always doing this work.
Hmm.
Um, and and I would do everything right, right? I would listen to podcasts, I would take a walk, I would call a friend. I would do things to make myself feel better, but I wasn't feeling better inside. And it would keep coming back, right? Either a day later or half a day later, I'd find myself sad again or worried or depressed or you know what I mean? And so I started questioning this. I'll remember I was sitting on my couch and I thought, I didn't sign up for this. This cannot be right. And when I said that to myself, something changed. And I got this realization that I came here as a soul having a human experience. At least that's my point of view, right? And as a soul having a human experience, I must know how to do this thing called life
Hmm.
because life is life. Things happen. This is not a shocker to anyone, right?
Hmm.
People die, you lose a job, something happens, you have a breakup, health issues. There's many things that happen. This is part of life. So the soul came here to live this life. So it's not surprise when something happens. So that means it must know how to do this thing called life.
Mm.
But I'm not connected to it. And that's the issue. So I'm trying to get through life with my mind mainly.
Mm.
I have included my body more because I've always been a mind body. I say soul therapist, and in my website it says mind, body, soul. But really, truly, I only did mind and body before I understood this. The only way I would incorporate the soul or like spiritual is like nature or things like that, but that's not actually the soul. That's just an action, right? That connects you slightly,
Hmm.
but maybe you don't have the understanding. But anyway, um, and because I started questioning that, because I had this insight, I started really just looking at myself. And I realized that my mind was taking me far away from this connected, calm place that lived inside of me and that I would touch it throughout the day. Like I would pet my cat and I'd feel calm. Like,
Mm.
oh, okay. Right. And then I would feel that my mind would pull me away. And I started realizing, or I just created, I mean, this is just words, what I call four mind created universes that pull you away from what I call your internal universe, which is where your soul resides. And the issue, and this is I think the most important point, the issue is never the issue. So whatever I'm trying to resolve in my mind and going in circles on, either talking to people or talking to myself for days, months, years. I mean, people do this for a long time, right? That loop.
Mhm.
We think we need to resolve a situation, but that's actually not the case.
Mhm.
What the case and what's really going on is that because you're busy in your mind trying to resolve or figure out or analyze or whatever is happening, you move away from the soul. And the soul is the guide that will help you through the situation.
Mm.
So the discomfort is not the situation, it's the fact that you moved away from the one thing that can help you through.
Mm.
And that's why you're uncomfortable. And the reason this is so powerful is because you only have one thing to do instead of a million things to have to figure out the mind. You just one thing, come back to the soul.
Mm.
Once you're back, you get a little bit of clarity, a little bit of relief, and then from there you can get guidance. What's your next step?
Mhm.
Not your ultimate step, because the soul
Right.
doesn't think this way. Your next step.
Mhm.
So that's basically what I do for the most part. I live it as best I can. There are times that you get pulled out, but when you realize it, then it doesn't take you out,
Mhm.
right? Because who wants to? You don't want to miss one moment of your life. Like we don't even know how long we're going to be here, right?
Wow.
So every moment matters, and when you're stuck feeling bad,
Mhm.
then you lose time. You lose this moment.
Yeah.
You lose precious time with a family member or being outside or just enjoying your dinner or anything,
Mhm.
right? Because you're just so stuck.
Yeah.
So this I find to be life-changing for me. And, I teach it to my clients. The ones who get it, it changes their life.
Mhm.
There are others who struggle with it, even though it's so simple, it's
Yeah.
hard to do because we're so conditioned. Our
Yes.
mind is so strong.
Mhm. Oh, wow. I love that so much. And especially the issue is never the issue. That
Never the
is just
issue.
like such a simple statement, but so truthful that, and you usually, like you said it beautifully, we're trying to solve it with our mind. And it's really a matter of mindfulness and being present in the moment and understanding yourself in that moment and the awareness too. Because when you had that realization, it was just this thing. What do you think helped you have that realization when you're like, I'm supposed to know how to do this because that's what my soul has come here for, but I'm trying to solve. What do you think contributed to that? Was that your, searching? You said you were always reading books and listening to podcasts. What do you think contributed to having this light bulb moment? Because those are the aha moments that change everything.
So I don't know if this is what contributed to it, but I am going to say it is. So I was listening to podcasts, and one of the podcasts I listened to is Neville Goddard. And he teaches about imagination is feeling as imagination is God and it's creation. And some of I don't even listen to him anymore, but at the time I was listening to different podcasts, and he said something. He said, God is within you. And when he said that, I heard it. And I think that's what changed it for me. I got it. And then somehow the understanding came in a completely different way.
Yeah.
Meaning the way I understand it and I teach it is different. I mean, he doesn't even talk about this in any way. Yeah. But that struck a chord. And I feel that, they say sometimes when you're, in a place where you don't know where to turn, right? There's this surrender that happens.
Yes.
And I think that might have contributed to it, where I really was available. I wasn't even thinking like, oh, what should I do frantically like we normally do? Yeah. I was just available, and that touched me. And then from there, somehow I started getting these realizations, and then all of this came out for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
that's fascinating. I love it.
Yeah.
It's just that knowing that it's the knowing right. that but then diving deeper and figuring out your own way of expressing that, right? Because you said they weren't teaching this. I came up with this. You came up with this in your own journey, but it was your way of expressing what others may express it in a different way, which in other words, God is within you. You have what it takes. All you have to do is look inside.
Now you said something very important. I really want to pivot on. Okay. You said knowing, what'd you say? Knowing that you know. That's the soul. I really want you to get this. Knowing that you know is the soul. Once I touched the soul, I didn't figure it out. It was revealed to me. Right? When you get insight, it's revealed to you. You don't think it. It's revealed. And then your mind follows through. My whole book is like this. It was revealed to me. That's how I feel. I'm not so smart that I came up with it. Not that I'm not smart, but I just mean it was revealed to me. And that's the place where I'm talking about when you're living from the soul. You're flowing with life. You're moving with life in a very natural, like you're on a magic carpet. You're floating, right? Like you feel part of it as opposed to forcing. You understand? Because you know that you know. And because you know that you know, you're going to wait to hear and wait to move. It's not that you're lethargic. I've been doing more since this realization than ever in my entire life. Because the movement is natural and it's not forced. I don't have to think, oh, should I write my book today? Like, let me force it. It's like, it organically wants to happen. Now, of course, I have to sit down and do it. So I'm not going to say sometimes I'm tired. Yeah, for sure. But it feels right. It feels natural. Yeah. And that's the difference of living from the soul and living from the mind. So you want to make sure you stay in this place and move from this place. Right. And it's a little bit different. It's something you sort of have to get used to because we're used to, I'm from New York. I'm like quick, right? Like, and I still can be quick, but it's a connected quick. Right. It's a connected, and it feels actually slower, honestly, like, because people are like, wow, how did you get that done? And I'm like, it was fun. It felt good as opposed to it felt forced, or I had to figure out all these techniques to figure out how to want to do it.
Let me stop you right here and remind you about my free resource with 30 plus visibility ideas to expand your reach today. Get visible right now. Just go to marchesburg.com/visibility and download and access instantly my 30 plus visibility ideas guide to get you going, man. Get on out there, get on social media, get to speaking and get to networking to really make your brand and your business known.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
No, that makes a lot of sense. And even I said knowing that you know, but there's a lot of trust as well. Trust that you
yeah,
know, even if like what you're saying, it doesn't work like I need to see the full picture and all of the steps. It's just the next thing that you need to do, and just trust that that's the next thing, and then you take the next step and the next step. And I was going to ask you what the process of writing the book is, because in having written my book, and having other authors here on the show and several people that I know that are authors, it's interesting to hear the process. Sometimes it
okay.
takes years, or I think for me the biggest thing was what do I want to say, and do I have something of substance to say, and then realizing, yes, I do. And going through the process and doing it all. And I always say that getting a book out is more mindset than anything, because with all the resources that we have these days and people that you can hire to help you with, or even just do it yourself and upload it on Amazon, it's not a complicated process like it used to be, several years ago. So not getting it out really is, you don't want to get it out, because if you do, it's just a matter of sitting down, like you said, put in the work and having it done. How was that for you in making the decision and going through the process and seeing it through?
It was actually very interesting. Well, first I want to just jump on. You said it requires trust, and the name of my book is How to Trust Your Inner Voice, because it is something that you have to start learning again. I think it's very natural. As
Yes.
kids, we were like that, and even now we're like that, but we don't pay attention to it. And it's a new way of living, to start trusting that inner voice that speaks to you, that we all know, right?
Yeah.
I call it the soul. You can call it whatever you want,
Right.
right? Inner self, inner wisdom. It doesn't matter. It's just a word. I call it the soul. So anyway, so that's very true. To learn to trust this, and you only can learn to trust it when you get to know it. It's
Yep.
sort of like anything,
Yep.
right? The more you get to know this part of you, the more you understand it, and the more you trust it. But writing my book was interesting because I came up with this method, great, okay, or I can't say I came up, it was given to me, right? So I have this, first it wasn't even a method. I was just doing it for myself, and I was feeling good no matter what. Like, it was amazing. I couldn't believe it. Like, things that would take me out, or I would be talking about for weeks, or I wasn't legitimately, right? Like, internally, not because I was trying to be positive about it. I literally just shifted, and I was like, wow. So I started teaching this to clients, but also not in a system, just when they came in. As a therapist, you just listen to what they need and you help them. But I started just sort of incorporating these components. And then I realized, I think I'm teaching everyone the same thing, but in a different order, because based on where they're at. So let me put it into an order. And then I thought, let me write a book. So I tried to write the book on the method, but it was a flop, because it was just so many words on a page. I got this editor, she couldn't make heads or tails of it. And I just put it aside, because I just couldn't, yeah. And then it was Passover. My brother invited a friend over who wrote a book, and he gave it to me. He gave it to me and some other people. And I'm like, I really want to write a book. I'm going to try again. And when I came home, because I was away for Passover. When I came home, I thought, you know what? I'm going to take a notebook. I'm going to start writing in the notebook. And within 2 weeks, I had 70 pages written.
Oh.
And then I came to the computer, started typing it up, and I realized my mistake was I was trying to do it in the way I thought I should do it, which is on the computer. And I didn't want to do it that way. In addition, I was too attached to writing it in a certain way, right? Like my method. And I wasn't listening to how I should write it. It's actually not my method, although it is. It's not written in a method style. It's my story, right? It's a little bit about me, which I didn't want to delve in too much, but I of course have to give some sort of framework.
Yeah.
And then I explain how we disconnect from from our center and how to come back and all these universes and things like that, but not in a step-by-step fashion, more in a very conversational, very easy read. So people will get through the book, which is very important to me, that I
Yes.
know people get through it. And it's going to be a series. So this is book one.
Ooh.
So it's just this topic, right? And the next one, which I'm in the middle of actually, is another topic, right? Similar, all connected. It's, a guidebook to the soul. So I mean, but I wanted it to be where people can can put down the book and get something from it. That was very important to me. So I guess like if anyone's listening and they want to write a book, my best advice would be first to not be so attached to how like how you're going to be doing it, right? If you're like, for me, I needed a notebook. For my second book, I needed the computer. Like, who knows, right? Just check in and see where are you going to be a yes to writing this.
Yeah.
And then also not to be so attached to what you think you should say, but really to again check in and listen to what wants to come out. Because you'll be surprised.
Yeah.
It will be different. I didn't think I was going to talk about myself because I didn't really want to talk about myself because it's not about me, it's about the reader.
Yeah.
But they need to know a little bit about like what, in my life, what happened to me and how I got here. And so I think there's value in that. My second book doesn't have as much of that because it's not as needed.
Yeah.
It's not out yet. I'm in the middle of it, but yes. So does that
That's
answer
great
your question?
advice. Yeah, no, it does. That's great advice because that actually happened to me. And I know many people, it's just in different ways, but in a similar fashion, because I started typing it up on the computer and I got stuck. And then the mentor that helped me actually get it out and encouraged me to continue, he said, I didn't write any of my books, I spoke them. And then I had a
Mm,
ghostwriter help me, and I was like, oh my gosh, this will help me get it out even faster because it's easier for me to talk. So I recorded pretty much the gist of each chapter, and I had a ghostwriter make sense of everything and type it all down. Then I had an editor after that as well. But it goes back to what I said. If you know you need to get it out, you'll find a way. But whether it be writing it down, handwritten or computer, just check in with yourself and see because when it's meant to get out, you're gonna find a way for sure. So
exactly.
that's great.
Exactly.
So tell us again the name of the book and what people could be looking into finding out as they read the book. And I'd also love for you to share with us how people can work with you because you said you have the programs, but you also have retreats. Want you to share more.
Okay. So the name of the book is How to Trust Your Inner Voice. And it really helps you understand how you disconnected from this part of you, that we all know what this part of us is. We touch it throughout our lives, but we don't live with this part of us. We
Hmm.
completely disregard it. It's sort of like the invisible part, right?
Hmm.
That's the most powerful. And
Yeah.
yet we don't, check in with it and live from it. And so this book is very much about, how I disconnected, a little bit about my childhood, how I disconnected from this place, how I found it again. I speak about the four mind created universes in detail. I talk about how we disconnect from it throughout life and how to come back. I talk also about how to know when it's your inner voice speaking and when it's, your mind or your emotions, right? It's different energies. So how you can distinguish it. And ultimately, the goal of the book is to help you connect back to this place or remember this place or include the
Hmm.
soul in your life because it will help with anxiety, depression, stuckness. It helps with all of that because I equate it to like, let's say you're in the mind, right? It's similar to like you're in a party and you're in the kitchen and everyone's talking about things you don't want to be talking about. It's creating anxiety in you. You don't like it, feels negative. If you try to reason with them, if you try to tell them to stop, it's only going to create conflict.
Hmm.
So the best thing to do is to just leave the room. You still might be able to hear them in the living room, right? Say
Hmm.
they're in the kitchen, but you're not engaging with them.
Hmm.
And that's what you do in this case, where you're not busy with the mind, which is what we do. As a therapist, this is what I used to do. We change our thoughts, we become positive,
Yeah.
we analyze them. That keeps you stuck there. That
Yeah.
keeps you in the kitchen, busy.
Yes.
And it's a never ending loop. And you might notice it. You might have all the insights of why you're a certain way. Um, you might even know what to do, but you're just not doing any of it.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas when you leave the room and you connect to the soul, you're not disregarding it in any way. I talk more about that in the book, right? Because you don't want to disregard things, but you're going toward this place that knows what your next best step is, that's not bothered by anything that the mind is bothered by. And so you get some relief, which creates some space for now to get the clarity to know what to do.
Mm-hmm. That's wonderful. Well, so people can get a taste of that and get to know you a little bit more with your book. I'll make sure and have that in the show notes. It's available on Amazon and major platforms. Okay, wonderful. So tell us more about how people can work with you. So they can go and get a taste of the book, but then if they're ready to really get in touch with you and find out about your programs and how it all works, where can they get started?
So they can go to www.thedebbiegottlieb.com.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So TheDebbieGottlieb.com. And basically what I offer is I'm a psychotherapist here in South Florida, in Fort Lauderdale. I also have an online course.
Nice.
I also offer retreats, wellness retreats, usually over the weekend.
Nice.
And they're also in South Florida.
Okay.
So those are 3 ways people can work with me.
Wonderful. Well, before I asked you to share how people can connect with you on social media, I'm already following you on Instagram. I wanted to ask you my $1 million question that I ask all of my guests at the end. Are you ready?
Okay, sure.
What is an empowered woman, Debbie?
Someone who's true to themselves, who's authentic.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And knows how to connect back with their soul.
Connect with their soul and allow its expression,
Mm.
even when they may not understand it or be ready for it, right? Because it's not about that.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I love it. Thank you so much. It's always fun for me to hear the answers because even though there is an underlying theme of self-trust, self-belief, authenticity, it all comes out differently and it's so unique to everyone. So thank you so much. Well, it was lovely to have you on the show. Tell us, where do you hang out the most? Is it on Instagram? Where are you so people can connect with you besides your website, like you mentioned?
So it's terrible, but I'm not so much on social media. I was for a little bit, but then it was distracting for me.
Mm.
So I'm not so on social media, but I might go back. I'm considering. I really, it's an interesting thing. I have a lot to say. And on the other hand, I want to say nothing because I want people to connect to themselves.
Yeah, I get
I
that.
don't want them to hear my voice and then now say, okay, yes, this, and then pivot off that. I want them to find their own soul,
Mm-hmm.
right? And in a way, silence is needed for that.
That's true.
For them to hear what is their guidance. Everyone is so wise. And you know this because everyone gives everyone else such great advice. It's true.
Yes, it is true.
But they disconnect from their center to really listen. So I have this little battle inside that I haven't figured out. How can I be on social media where I can help people connect to themselves? Not me. I mean, me also, I guess, but more, how can I help them without so many words? Connect to that deepest part of them so they understand that it's in them and they don't have to go anywhere for it. They can. Like sometimes the soul will tell me, listen to this, and I do listen to different things and read things. That's not a contradiction, but ultimately it's always coming back to yourself, right?
Yes.
The deepest part of yourself. So for now, I'm not really on social media. I was on it for a little bit, so you'll see some posts, so you'll get to know me. You can always message me on there. And there may be a time where I figure out a way to do it in a way that's authentic to me. And I feel that would be the best for the people, listening, that doesn't get more noise and more disconnection. So
no, I totally get that. And thank you for being vulnerable and authentic and sharing that because everyone does things differently. And plus you have your book out so that people can connect with you that way. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for being here and sharing this amazing message and inspiring people to reconnect with themselves. I appreciate it.
And thank you for having me here. This was fun.
Thanks so much for tuning in today. I hope this episode empowered you. And if you enjoyed the show, please join the Empowered Woman community on Facebook and share with friends or leave a review on iTunes so more people can discover this empowering message. Until next time, bye.